Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining this academic forum discussion. Today's discussion focuses on the topic mental health and academic performance among university students. This is going to be a narrative review of institutional strategies for enhancing student well-being. So with this, allow me, as the moderator, Kavita here, to introduce our distinguished panel members who will be contributing to this discussion. We have Miss Anna, representing the lecturer's perspective, Miss Sharon, an experienced education practitioner, Miss Jana, our researcher, and two student representatives, Yiling and Christina, who will share valuable insights from the student point of view. This topic aligns closely with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, particularly SDG 3, good health and well-being, and also SDG 4, which is more on quality education. So, good health and well being emphasizes the importance of promoting healthy lives and overall well being across all age groups. Meanwhile, SDG 4 focuses on ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education while encouraging lifelong learning opportunities. These two goals are deeply interconnected, especially in the context of higher education. So, in today's forum, we will explore theoretical perspectives, research challenges, ethical considerations, and practical strategies related to this issue. So, to begin our discussion, I would like to invite Miss Anna, our lecturer representative, to explain the theoretical frameworks that underpin this research topic.
Thank you, Ms. Kavita. We are looking at several key educational and psychological theories. The first one is self-determination theory. It is the student's motivation to regulate the learning processes and make rational decisions. In simple, it is the autonomy, competence, and relatedness that foster intrinsic motivation and self-determined extrinsic regulations. So, universities should enhance student motivation and academic performance by offering supportive learning environments and well-being programs. Another famous theory proposed by Urim Brenner is the ecological systems theory. Environments, including our family members, university institutions, and broader societal contexts that students have direct interactions with may positively or perhaps negatively affect their development. Thus, institutional policies, campus culture, and support services all play significant roles in shaping students' mental health and educational outcomes. Besides these two theories, we look into other perspectives from student engagement research, which highlights that institutional support and learning environments significantly affect students' persistence and academic achievement. So these theoretical perspectives together help explain how mental health, institutional support, and academic performance are interconnected. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anna, for the clear explanation of the theoretical frameworks that connect the Sustainable Development Goals with the field of education. So, with that foundation in place, I would now like to shift our discussion towards some of the potential challenges associated with addressing these goals within educational contexts, particularly those that may arise during the research process. So, to provide further insight into this area, let us now hear from our student representative, Yiling, who will outline some of the possible challenges that researchers and institutions may encounter when examining this issue.
Thank you, Ms. Kavita. I understand the point about interconnectivity of mental health, institutional support, and academic performance, as well as how important the connection is in building a student. And it is challenging when it comes to studying emotional issues because it is not something physical to be analyzed accurately by any means of instruments. Consequently, when we are doing research relating to emotions, the collection of data and responses is rather complex. And so it gives impact on data accuracy as well as results of reliability. And meanwhile, it is effortful to investigate the causation of any mental health issues, for instance, to retrieve a student's mental history to support data and research accuracy in relation to their academic achievement. Also, we are all aware that different universities impose different academic requirements, where some universities demand and categorize students who achieve GPA less than 2.0 are considered a weak and poor outcome, while other universities are not having such demand. Indirectly, this leads to different levels of stress and mental wellness across all university students in our country. So when it comes to data collection, with the measurement of stress level is taken, the results may not be valid and accurate as students encounter contextual differences within the same sample group. And consequently, this affects the validity and reliability of research outcomes.
Thank you, Ms. Yiling, for the insightful explanation. So I would now like to invite our next speaker, Ms. Christina, to expand further on the ethical considerations.
Thank you, Ms. Kavita. We must adhere to ethical considerations, especially when studying sensitive topics such as student mental health, to ensure the study is conducted responsibly. A few core principles to follow strictly. First, participation is entirely voluntary. Students will be provided with written informed consent, and they can withdraw at any time without consequence or pressure from staffs or peers. We will prioritize privacy. Secondly, all data will be fully anonymized, securely stored with password protection, and accessible only to the authorized research teams. Third, we must minimize psychological harm. Mental health is a deeply personal topic, and participants may find certain questions emotionally triggering. To address this, all instruments will be carefully worded using trauma informed, non judgmental language. Participants will be reminded throughout that they may skip any question or stop at any point. Following data collection, all participants will be thoroughly debriefed, and those who show signs of distress will be referred to a professional counseling services provided with the relevant mental health support context. Finally, we will maintain research integrity. This means obtaining ethical clearance, IRB approval, before we begin, ensuring our sample is fair and diverse, and being honest about any biases that may affect our findings. By upholding these standards, we protect our participants and ensure the highest quality of research.
Thank you, Ms. Christina, for such clear and responsible explanation on ethical considerations. So it is obviously and evident that safeguarding participants is not just a requirement, but a fundamental responsibility in research involving mental health. So let us now move from theory to practice. I would like to invite Ms. Sharon, our education practitioner, to share her perspective on how these considerations translate into real educational settings.
Thank you, Kavita. Well, I agree with Miss Christina that ethics must be central when we discuss about students' mental health. As an educator practitioner, I often see how students struggle silently with stress, anxiety, and academic pressure. From my perspective, what truly matters is how strategies are implemented in real learning environments. Well, I believe that educators must create a safe, supportive environment, and also services of mental health is actually accessible without stigma. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharon, for highlighting the importance of practical implementation in supporting student well-being. So while creating a supportive environment is essential, so it is also important to consider whether these efforts are sufficient at the institutional level. So with that in mind, let us now hear a slightly different perspective that critically examines the broader role of universities in addressing mental health. With this, I welcome Ms. Jana, our researcher, to continue further.
Thank you, Marita. Okay, mental health play a vital role in the student academic success and overall development. A narrative review is individual strategy show that universities must adopt comprehensive approaches, including counseling service, awareness program, and supportive academic environment. By addressing student mental health, higher education institutions contribute not only to improve academic performance but also the global development goals such as SDG 3 good health and well-being and SDG for quality education. Back to moderator.
Thank you, Ms. Jenna. So thank you once again to all the panel members for your insights regarding part one as well. So we have established three key points over here. The first one is student mental health, which is not just a personal issue, but it is also an institutional responsibility. And secondly, mental health research is challenging due to its complexity and differences across universities. And the third one would be the ethical considerations such as privacy, consent, and approval are essential. So now moving to part two, we will focus on practical actions universities can take to support student mental health and improve academic performance. So this aligns with SDG 3 and also SDG 4, ensuring student well-being and equal across to quality education. So with that, I invite Miss Christina to continue.
Friends, conducting educational research, informed consent isn't just a formality, it's a foundational ethical commitment. Every researcher needs to know what to do. Number one, participants must clearly understand the study's purpose, who is conducting it, and why they'll be asked to do, and who to contact if concerns arise. Participants must also be voluntary. Consent is a process, not a one time signature. Participants can withdraw at any time. No questions will be asked. When working with students, sensitivity matters, especially around mental health disclosures. Participants must feel safe knowing their information will be handled with the utmost care. Confidentiality and anonymity are non-negotiable. Data is collected anonymously and no report will ever reveal a participant's identity. Participants deserve full transparency about the study's duration, methods, and any potential risks before they ever agree to take part. And lastly, the Institutional Review Board, which we call IRB, will review all research conducted at the university. Therefore, anyone conducting research associated with the university must obtain IRB approval before beginning the research. So, informed consent is more than a checkbox. It's how to protect the people who trust us with their time, their data, and sometimes their most personal experiences.
Thank you, Miss Christina, for that informed consent in educational research as well. So let us look at and hear from our education practitioner from her point of view. What do you think, Miss Sharon?
Well, I agree with Christina. That's a very important point about informing students and also the consent of protecting students' well-being. From an education practitioner perspective, one challenge is also ensuring that mental health initiatives are not just policies on paper but actively practiced in the learning environment. For example, lecturers and academic staff should be trained to recognize early signs of stress or burnout among students. And small changes such as flexible deadline during difficult periods, mental health awareness programs can actually help students with counselings as well and makes a significant difference among students. Bringing back to our topic on the SDG 3 and education supporting students' mental health is not only a welfare issue, but it also directly influences the academic engagement, retention, and overall student success. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Sharon, from your point of view. Let's hear from Miss Jana, our researcher.
Okay, thank you. So, from my experience as a researcher and educator, mental health play a crucial role in a student ability to perform academically. Students who experience emotional stress or psychological pressure often struggle to concentrate, complete assignment, and actively participate in learning activity. In many cases, these challenges can lead to the decreased academic performance and reduced motivation. Therefore, universities should prioritize mental health support system that help students maintain both psychological well-being and academic success.
Oh, that's nice. I like your point about values, but I think it would be helpful for us to explore this idea a little further. So, while values certainly play an important role in shaping students' attitudes and behaviors, we may also need to consider how institutional structures and support systems influence students' mental well being and academic performance. So, perhaps we can reflect on how universities can translate these values into practical strategies that genuinely support students in their learning environment. So, what do you think, Miss Jana?
Okay, so as a researcher, the discussion can focus on interpreting findings from the literature on the relationship between mental health and academic performance among the university students. Many studies show that students experience stress, anxiety, depression, often struggle with their concentration, motivation, and time management, which can negatively affect their academic performance. In contrast, students who receive proper psychological and emotional support tend to show better engagement and learning outcome. Therefore, university play an important role in supporting student well-being through practical strategies such as counseling service, peer support program, and mental health awareness initiative. For example, some universities organize well-being weeks that include workshop and stress management activities to help students cope with academic pressure. This initiative also aligns with the global goals such as SDG 3 and SDG 4, which emphasize the importance of mental well-being and inclusive education. Overall, effective institutional support systems can improve both student well-being and academic success.
Okay, that's actually quite true. So, your point highlights an important connection between mental well being and students' academic engagement. So, it reminds us that when students feel supported psychologically, they are often better able to focus on their studies, participate actively in learning, and sustain their motivation throughout their academic journey. So, thank you, Miss Jana. That is a very good point. And since we have reached a consensus that our study adopts a narrative review approach, could you please explain the rationale behind selecting this methodology for investigating the issue?
As you see that the more we delve into this topic, right, the more we know that there's a lot for us to study, ranging from the theoretical framework, the definition of mental health, multiple disciplines, ranging from education, psychology, and even public health. So we also need to further investigate the impacts of positive or negative mental health on academic performance. So that's why before we take the next step of analyzing or moving towards any further studies or research, we adopt a narrative review approach compared to systematic reviews that focus only on a very specific research question. A narrative review allows us to have a wider synthesis of existing studies and conceptual discussions. Moreover, it is really like finding a treasure in a deep ocean. This methodological approach for this narrative review engages us in searching and identifying relevant literature from several academic databases, including Scopus, National Library of Science, Science Directs, and Google Scholar. After all, no matter what we search for, we have to further analyze literature, case studies, or strategies to collect sufficient data related to SDG in education. That's all.
So, to identify relevant studies, researchers can use keywords such as student mental health, academic performance, university well-being programs, and institutional strategies. So using these keywords helps narrow the search and allows researchers to locate more focused and relevant literature related to the topic. So let's hear from our student representative, Miss Yiling.
Thank you, Ms. Kavita. In terms of improving data accuracy in research, institutional systems and strategies can be improved to overcome the limitations. I think it would be great to establish or even to upgrade institutional policies and support services. From here, the education institution will be able to record data from student-led questionnaires and to perform correlation between students' mental health and study grades. This will then contribute to a deeper understanding of students' mental state as well as to provide a valid and trusted data bank for research purposes in later days. Perhaps some of the institutions can practice student screening, specifically in terms of their mental well-being, and especially to those first-year new students. The rationale behind this is to further understand and follow up students' development along their academic journeys. Thank you.
So thank you. All right, to briefly summarize part two here, we have discussed how research methodology, particularly narrative review, helps bring together insights from fields like education, psychology, and public health to better understand student mental health. So we also highlighted key institutional strategies such as counseling services, awareness programs, supportive academic policies, and early intervention systems. So we have also emphasized the importance of ethics, including informed consent, data privacy, and responsible handling of sensitive information. So addressing student mental health requires collaboration across researchers, educators, policymakers, and students. So we will move on to the final part of our discussion. So focusing on data privacy, ethical governance, and the role of educational in advancing the sustainable development goals. So with this, Ms. Christina, please proceed.
About student data privacy. Mental health data is deeply personal. If it falls into the wrong hands, it can cause someone to lose their job, their relationship, or it affects their reputation. That is why protecting it is non-negotiable. Paper records go in a locked area. Digital files stay on encrypted, password protected devices. The rules are simple, but they all make the difference. What does the IRB actually do? Thinking of IRB as a safety net for research. Its job is simple: make sure no one's private information gets misused. Researchers check in throughout the study to ensure participants' safety and data security. From finding participants to storing the final results, the IRB is involved at every step because protecting people isn't a one-time task. It is a commitment that lasts the entire study. That's from me.
So I would to like to invite Miss Sharon to share her perspective on how we can better protect student data while ensuring ethical research practices are upheld.
Okay, thank you, Kavita. Well, I agree with the points that was raised by Christina about protecting students' data and ensuring ethical research practices. Well, from an education practitioner viewpoint, I believe that universities must balance the use of technology and learning with respect to students' privacy as well. Well, digital tools can help to identify students that need supports, but institutions must also ensure that the data is actually used responsibly, and the only purpose is actually to improve students' well-being. Educators must also play a key role in bridging the gap between institutional policies and students' real experiences. Ultimately, I believe that achieving students' sustainable development goals in education requires a collaboration between researchers, educators, and students themselves. When an institution prioritizes both academic achievements and mental well-being, I believe that we create more inclusive and supportive learning environment for everyone.
Oh,
Thank
that,
you.
thank you. Thank you very much, Miss Sharon. So what do you think, Miss Jenna?
Okay, I'm agree with the Sharon. Well, as we know, education play an important role in addressing global challenges and supporting sustainable development. Through effective teaching and learning, educational institutions can raise awareness and develop student knowledge, skill and values needed to contribute society. In particular, education support SDG 3.4 by promoting inclusive and equality learning opportunities for all. At the same time, universities can help achieve SDG 3 by promoting mental health awareness and student well-being. From a researcher perspective, integrating these goals into education can create supportive learning environment that improve both academic success and student overall well-being while preparing them to the contribution positively to the sustainable development. Back to narrator.
Thank you, Miss Jana. That is an important point. So, with that, Anna, could you please further explain the criteria or scope of the literature that we have selected for this study?
Oh, sure. We selected literature based on a few criteria. The journal articles are the peer-reviewed articles related to mental health, academic performance, university students, and strategies to promote positive mental health. We particularly pay attention to examining institutional strategies or interventions for supporting students' mental health. Research regarding broader terms such as school students or non-academic publications will be excluded. So once sufficient research and literature are collected, they will be analyzed using thematic synthesis. The findings will be organized into several key themes, including the prevalence of mental health issues among university students, the impacts of mental health on academic performance, and institutional strategies that universities implement to support student well-being. The institutional strategies are the constructive suggestions gathered from different literature articles, including university counseling services, mental health awareness programs, peer and online support systems, flexible academic policies, and the development of supportive campus environments. That's all from me.
Thank you. So overall, this narrative review seeks to identify how universities can implement effective strategies to enhance both student mental health and academic success. So without delaying, welcoming our next speaker, Ms. Yiling, to continue.
Thank you. And now focusing on the concern issues, we also identified that the potential barrier is tendency of policymakers to be able to see individual targets and goals in a separate manner. For instance, SDG 3 and SDG 4 are seen as two separate figures. So this leads to funding issues, especially when they are trying to upgrade or maintain high education quality. The fund to be segregated into the other area is affected and therefore decreased. The existence of such conflict is causing an imbalance to result integrating important frameworks. And also the existing conventional policy frameworks have the tendency to cause deduction in terms of weight, and eventually the crucial goals like health and education will be neglected or even sacrificed. So as a result, most public institutions such as schools and health centers are underfunded. When these schools and health centers encounter inequality in funds, they cause them to operate without necessary support.
So thank you to all our panel members. So we have learned that mental health, academic performance, and institutional responsibility are closely connected in higher education. So supporting student well-being is not just an additional effort, but an important part of creating a strong and inclusive education system. So from our discussion, it is clear that universities need to use proper research methods, follow ethical practices, and work across different fields to support students effectively. So most importantly, achieving SDG 3, good health and well-being, interconnected with SDG 4, quality education, requires universities to treat mental health as a core part of education, not a separate issue. So by creating a supportive environment, practicing ethical research, and encouraging open conversations, universities can better support student success and contribute to sustainable development. So thank you everyone for your participation.
Thank you.
You.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.